The Letter, the Witch, and the Ring by John Bellairs, Chapter 10. As soon as Aggie saw what Rosarita's plan was, she tried to back out. She thought up 1,000 reasons for not going to Mrs. Bigger's place. That night or any other night, they might get caught and put in reform school. Aggie's mom would catch them and bawl them out and tell Rosarita's folks. Mrs. Bigger might be there, hiding in a closet and waiting for them. The store would be all locked up and they wouldn't be able to get in. They might get bitten by Mrs. Bigger's dog, and so on and so forth. But Rosarita was not impressed by Aggie's arguments. She had only known Aggie for a short while, but she knew by now that Aggie was a worrywart. Worrywarts always imagine terrible things are going to happen. They imagine dangers where dangers don't exist. Lewis was a worrywart, and he was always fussing and fretting about something. Right now, Aggie was acting just like Lewis. To Rosarita, everything seemed clear. Mrs. Bigger was a witch, and she was always reading magic books. She probably had a copy of the mallet of whatever it was, the book Rosarita had to have if she was going to save Mrs. Zimmerman. It might be in her home, or it might be in her store somewhere. It was very likely to be in her store, since she spent a lot of time there and probably read while she worked. After all, Rosarita argued, she had found the magic charm tucked away in one of Gert Bigger's account books. Well, if she had found that, she might find other things. Rosarita ignored the holes in her argument. She didn't want to see them. Already she was beginning to be carried away by the idea of bearding Gert Bigger in her den. She imagined herself armed with a great book from which she read strange, grim-sounding incantations, magic words that would bring Gert Bigger to her knees and make her bring Mrs. Zimmerman back from wherever Gert Bigger had sent her. It occurred to Rosarita, of course, that maybe Mrs. Bigger had used her magic to kill Mrs. Zimmerman. Well, thought Rosarita grimly, if she's done that, I'll make her bring Mrs. Zimmerman back from the dead. And if I can't do that, I'll make her pay for what she did. A tremendous anger was building in Rosarita's mind. Righteous anger. She hated that big raw-boned woman with the nasty, sneering manner and the insults and lies and dirty, rotten, cheating ways. She was going to fix her and fix her good. In the meantime, however, she had to persuade Aggie to go along with her plan. It wasn't easy, Rosarita argued and wheedled. But Aggie was a stubborn girl, about as stubborn as Rosarita, and Aggie was especially stubborn when she was scared. "All right, Aggie," said Rosarita, folding her arms and glaring. "If that's the way you're... All right, Aggie," said Rosarita, folding her arms and glaring. "If that's the way you're going to be, I'll just go by myself." Aggie looked hurt. "You mean it, really?" Rosarita nodded grimly. "Uh-huh, try and stop me." Actually, Aggie could have stopped Rosarita easily, and Rosarita knew it. All she had to do was shout, and Mrs. Sipes, who was a very light sleeper, would be down in the room asking them what all the racket was about. But Aggie didn't shout. She really did want to be in on the adventure. On the other hand, she was afraid. "Come on, Aggie," Rosarita pleaded. "We won't get caught, I promise you. If we get our hands on a copy of that book I told you about, we can really fix old Mrs. Bigger's wagon. You'd like that, wouldn't you?" Aggie's forehead wrinkled up. Her eyebrows got so worried that they almost met. "Gee, I still don't know, Rosarita. Are you sure that whatchamacallit book will be there?" "Of course I'm not sure, dopey. But we'll never find out if we sit here all night. Come on, Aggie, please." Aggie looked uncertain. "Well, how are we going to get in? The doors and windows will all be locked." We can figure that out when we get there. Maybe we'll have to break a window or something." "It'd make a lot of noise," said Aggie, "and you might cut yourself on the glass." "Well, pick the lock then. People do it all the time in the movies." "This isn't the movies. This is real life. Do you know how to pick locks, huh? Do you? I bet you don't." Rosarita felt totally exasperated. "Look, Aggie," she said, "if we get there and we can't find any way to get in, we can give up and come back, okay? And if there is a way to get in, you won't even have to come inside with me. You can stay outside and be the lookout. Come on, Aggie, I really need you. How about it, huh?" Aggie scratched her head and looked uncertain. "You promise I won't have to come in with you? And if we can't get in, we'll come straight back here?" Rosarita drew a cross on her stomach with her finger. "I promise. Cross my heart and hope to die." "Okay," said Aggie. "Wait till I get my flashlight. We'll need it." Working as quietly as they could, Rosarita and Aggie got into their clothes and put on their sneakers. Aggie dug a long-barreled flashlight out of her closet and poked around in her dresser drawer till she found an old Boy Scout knife. It had a black, wrinkly plastic handle, and inside a little glass bubble at one end of the handle was a compass. Aggie really couldn't say why she was taking along this particular piece of equipment, but she thought it might come in handy. When they were ready, the two girls tiptoed to the door of the bedroom. Aggie led the way. Carefully, she opened the door just a crack and looked out. "Okay," she whispered, "just follow me." The two girls tiptoed down the hall and down the stairs. They walked softly through rooms that lay gleaming in moonlight till they reached the back door. The back door was propped open because it was a hot night, and the screen door was unhooked. They went out, closing the door softly behind them. "Wow," breathed Rosarita. "That part was easy." Aggie smiled shyly. "Yeah, I've done it before. I used to go frog spearing with my brother down to the creek there. But my mom caught us and gave us heck. I haven't been out in the middle of the night since then. Come on." Aggie and Rosarita started walking down a rutty wagon road that ran between two plowed fields. They climbed a little fence and trotted along a grassy track that ran parallel to the main road. Rosarita saw at once that they were going back by the way they had come on the previous day when Aggie found Rosarita sleeping next to the cornfield. Now the field was on their left, rustling softly in the night breeze. Stars were clustered thick overhead and crickets chirped in the tall grass. Before long, the girls passed the place where they had met. There was a droopy elm tree and the flat-topped boulder. They had been chatting excitedly, but now they grew quiet. They were not far from Mrs. Bigger's store. At the edge of the gravel road, the two girls paused. There was Gert Bigger's grocery store, shut up for the night. A yellow insect lamp lit up the front door, and through a wide plate glass window the girls could see a nightlight burning in the rear of the store. The sign with the flying red horse creaked gently in the wind, and the two gas pumps looked like soldiers on guard. "Here we are," whispered Aggie. "Yeah," said Rosarita. She felt something tighten up in her stomach. Maybe this was a dumb plan after all. She was about to ask Aggie if she really felt like going ahead with their plan, but she swallowed her fears and crossed the road. Aggie followed, glancing about her nervously. "It looks okay," said Aggie, when they were both on the other side of the road. "Her car's always parked over there when she's here, and it's gone." "Good. Do you think we ought to try the front door?" "Well, you can if you want to, but I'm sure it'll be locked." Rosarita trotted up the steps and rattled the door. It was locked tight. She shrugged and ran back down the steps. "Come on, Aggie, that's one down and a lot to go. It's such a hot night that she might have left one window open. Let's check the windows." Rosarita could feel her courage and habitual optimism coming back. Everything would work out all right. They'd find a way in. Apparently, Rosarita's optimism was catching. Aggie brightened up and became, for her, confident. "Hey, that's an idea. Okay, we'll check." As they passed around the side of the building, the girls heard a loud clunking sound. There, behind the fence, was that poor bedraggled white chicken. It looked even more beat up and scrawny than it had when Rosarita saw it the day before. Old Gertie ought to feed it, Rosarita thought. As before, the hen was very excited. It ran back and forth behind the fence, clucking and flapping its wings. "Oh, be quiet," Rosarita hissed. "We're not going to chop off your head. Just cool down, for heaven's sake." The two girls started to inspect the windows on the side of the house. The ones on the first floor were shut tight, and it was likely they were locked as well. Just to make sure, Rosarita got up on an orange crate and tried to move one of them. It wouldn't budge an inch. "Darn it all anyway," she grumbled as she got down off the crate. "Oh, don't give up yet," said Aggie. "We haven't tried the... Whoops, watch out!" Rosarita whirled around in time to see a car pass by. Its headlights swept across the side of the store and were gone. If the driver had been paying attention, he would have seen two figures standing next to the store, but apparently he had not noticed. Rosarita felt exposed, as if she were in a fishbowl. She felt the danger of what she was doing. "Come on," she said, tugging nervously at Aggie's arm. "Let's go around to the back." The two girls walked around to the rear of the store. The little white hen, which had never stopped squawking since the time they arrived, kept it up until they disappeared around the corner of the building. Rosarita was glad when it finally shut up. It was beginning to make her nervous. The two girls tried the back door. It was locked. Then they stepped back and surveyed the rear wall of the building. The first floor windows had heavy iron grills over them. Perhaps they were the windows of the storeroom where the groceries were kept. There was one window on the second floor, and Rosarita stepped back to make sure. Yes, it was open, not wide open, but open a crack. Wow, said Rosarita, pointing. Do you see that? Aggie looked doubtful. Yeah, I do, but I don't see how you could wiggle in through a crack like that. I'm not going to wiggle in through the crack, Dumbo. The crack means the window isn't fastened. If I climb up there, I can open it up. How are you going to do that? Rosarita looked around. I don't know yet. Let's see if there's anything to climb up on. Rosarita and Aggie poked around in the backyard of Gert Bigger's store for a while, but they didn't find any ladders. There was a tool shed, but it had a padlock on it. Rosarita went back to the window and peered up at it owlishly. She rubbed her chin. There was an apple tree growing near the store, and one of the branches nearly touched the sill of the window she wanted. But Rosarita was an experienced tree climber, and she knew that the branch would start to bend as soon as she tried to climb out on it. By the time she got near the end of the branch, it would be bent way down, so it was no good. On the other hand, there was a trellis nailed to the side of the house. It ran up next to the window. If she could climb up on it, she might be able to get hold of the sill and swing herself over. It was worth a try. Rosarita took a deep breath and flexed her hands. She walked up to the trellis. It was covered with thick, thorny vines, but there were places here and there where you could put your hands. Rosarita put a foot on one slat and a hand on the other. She swung herself up so her weight was on the trellis and hung there, waiting to see what would happen. Nails skeetered as the trellis started to pull out from the wall. It doesn't look too good, said Aggie, screwing up her mouth into a very worried scowl. If you climb any farther, you're going to break your neck. Rosarita said nothing. The trellis was still attached to the wall, so she put another foot up, then another foot and another hand. With a loud splintering, cracking, rustling, and squeaking noise, the trellis leaned lazily sideways. Nails and broken pieces of wood dropped to the ground. Rosarita leaped free of the wreckage and landed on her feet. Aggie, with a little cry, dropped the knife in the grass and ran to Rosarita's side. She found her standing there, sucking a cut thumb and glaring hatefully at the ruined trellis. Darned thorns, anyway, Rosarita grumbled. Gee, is she ever going to be ticked off, said Aggie. Mrs. Bigger, I mean. Rosarita wasn't listening. She was wondering if maybe she could scale the side of the building. It wasn't very far up to the second story, and the white clapboard strips looked as though they might give her a handhold. She tried, but she slid down. She tried again with the same result. She stood there, panting and red-faced. For the first time, she doubted the wisdom of her plan. Let's go home, said Rosarita bitterly. She felt the tears stinging her eyes. Are you giving up already, said Aggie. Gee, I don't think that's a very good idea. We haven't looked at the other side of the store. Rosarita gave a start and looked at Aggie. She was right. Rosarita had been so wrapped up in the problem of the upstairs window that she had forgotten all about the far side of the building. The one side they hadn't checked out yet. Hope and optimism came flowing back. Okay, let's look, said Rosarita, grinning. On the far side of the store, thick bushes grew up close to the windows. But there was a little tunnel in the shrubbery where you could sidle if you hunkered down a bit. Rosarita and Aggie bent over and edged their way in under the bushes. They looked up and saw that the windows on this side had grates and padlocks, like the ones on the back of the store. But down at ground level was a cellar entrance, the old-fashioned kind with two slanting wooden doors. Aggie shone her flashlight over the door. There was a pair of metal fixtures where the two doors met. Obviously, they were meant to hold a padlock, but there was no padlock in the holes. The door was unlocked. And we'll pause there.